Welcome to the mapping class here at GIJN. I've been doing the mapping classes here for at least 10 years. And one thing I can tell you is the software changes, but the concepts all remain the same. So everything we're teaching, there's always changes in software. Something becomes more popular, less popular. In 10 years from now, it may not be QGIS. The concepts all remain the same. So just the other thing is underlying all of these mapping programs is essentially a database, since the computer just figures out where stuff is in the world. And we want to take advantage of that for doing stories, for doing investigative stories, for even just doing daily stories. There's a lot of things mapping can do. Kang and I have used mapping a lot for our work, so that means I should introduce ourselves. My name is Andy Laren. I am a senior editor with NBC News. I used to be at the New York Times. I work on investigations. Before that, I used to work at IRE, Investigative Reporters and Editors, where I worked in the database library, and where I also helped write IRE's first handbook on how to use mapping for investigations. So, and that's a long way of saying, here's like an amazing, I can't believe I have him as my co-teacher. Kang, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Andy. Hi, everyone. My name is Kang. Right now, I'm the data editor at the Palooza Center. Andy was our 2021 and 2022 Rainforest Investigation Fellow. That's where we started to work closely with each other. So I am the nerdy guy. So I have been doing data journalism, doing training for the past probably 7 years. Yeah. So, yep. That's why we're here.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, it doesn't matter what your beat or interest is for mapping software, whether it's covering immigration, covering crime, covering the environment, like I was doing a lot with Kang. There's so many ways that using mapping can help you find the stories that your competitors are not finding. So at this point, if everyone could just start up QGIS so we can make sure that QGIS is opened. And I've tested this a few different ways. We each may have slightly different looking screens, and that's okay. So the things that I need you to do is to start up QGIS and then to know where you downloaded the mapping software on your computer, because everyone might download their files in different corners of the internet. Okay. I'll be going slow and we can catch up. Yeah. So this is what it looks like when I start a clean version of QGIS. Who does not have this or something like this on their screen right now? 2 people? 3 people. It's okay to raise your hand. That's what we're here for. Installing. You have it. No, you don't. No, you're installing as well. So you're still installing. We'll go slow. And by the way, tomorrow in the morning lesson, we'll be doing more advanced techniques, but we'll be doing this again. So if you're able to hang in there now, you can also come tomorrow and we'll get a lot out of it. So we have 4 people who are still installing the software. Just be patient. So a couple things. This doesn't look like a map, right? It just looks like a computer program. And when we have maps that we see in our newspapers, along with the pretty map that we might have over here, what do we usually have over to the side? A key or a legend, right? QGIS may not automatically put up a key for you. So here's how we get that key to happen. We will go to View and to Panels. By the way, one of the things that we want to do with this class is there's a lot of choices in QGIS. Look at all those buttons and choices and things. What we're trying to do here is say, look, yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. There's really only like a dozen things or so that you really need to know. We teach you these dozen things, and then you, as journalists, will really be well situated to do stories. So the key or the legend So go to View, go to Panels, and go to Layers. That's what QGIS likes to call a legend. So that's what a legend, so it's blank legend, blank map, but now your imagination can begin to hopefully fill in, that we want to have something mapped. So the first thing that we're going to map in the course of this class is we're going to bring in a United Nations map that has a lot of information about world population. So how do we bring in a map? It's not just like double-click the file. It's slightly different than that, which brings up this discussion. The thing that most of the time we're mapping in this world are called shape files. The way you're used to the CSV is the common version of a spreadsheet, or an Excel file, common version of a spreadsheet. The common version of a map is a shape file, which just has a .shp extension to the end of it. So we're always looking for shape files. And the good thing for us as journalists is that the internet is filled with reliable shape files for free from government agencies, from universities, from think tanks, NGOs. There's a lot of shape files out there. The shape file we're bringing in is based on United Nations data. So I'm going to go to a layer, because that's what QGIS likes to call every map, is a layer. You can picture now we're going to make a layer cake of different layers, but layer, and we're going to add a layer. And the layer that we're going to add is called a vector layer, which is kind of how QGIS thinks of shapefiles. You should then get a screen that looks a little bit like this. And if you don't have that screen, raise your hand and we'll come around and help.
By the way, I'm here, so you just raise your hand and I can go and help while Andy do the talking. Right?
Yeah. Oh, it's called layers. Yeah. Yeah, perfect. Great. And then just go then, after you got it open, wherever QGIS is. Yeah, then go to layers and go to add a layer and go to vector layer. My Duolingo in Norwegian does not cover how to do mappings. Jævla Duolingo. Okay. Okay. So, okay. You want to use mine? Okay. So, we're going to add a data set. Sorry. And my computer's thinking, and I know where I saved my files, in this handy GIJN folder. You guys may have saved them somewhere else in your personal drives. And I had you guys download a world population UN folder. You'll notice when you open it up, instead of just giving you one thing, it gives you all of these files. These are all related to the shapefile. They're all the stuff that goes into turning a spreadsheet essentially into a map. But the brains, the thing that holds it all together, that coordinates it, is the shapefile part, which has this .shp extension. And that's the one we want to double click on and add. At this point, I'm going to hit close. And who does not have this? Because Kang and I can go around the room to try to help you, except for those still installing stuff.
Another quick way of doing that, you can just go to your Explorer, click on the file, and drag to QGIS. You don't have to click open vector.
Oh, which Kang is bringing up a great point, which is that usually in QGIS, there's about 5 ways to do the same thing.
Yeah, you got it. Cool. Yep.
After this session is over, I'm gonna put up in the training folder with the data. I'm gonna put out a handout that's gonna explain much of what we're doing. So if you're having trouble taking notes, it'll walk you through this. Who does not have a map on their screen that looks like this? Everyone does?
You
So-
might have different colors, which is fine.
Yeah, different colors. We're not being quizzed on colors at all. And it's QGIS just kind of says, I think you want pink today. You're in a pink kind of mood. So before we do anything more, let's learn about 5 or 6 different buttons within QGIS. Because once you learn these buttons, it'll all be a little bit easier to navigate. The first thing is that once you start bringing maps into QGIS, you're creating what QGIS calls a project. You could be creating a project that's, the location of war atrocities in Ukraine. You could be creating a project showing the location of Russian oligarch ships, deforestation. All of these are projects, right? So let's do what we always do with computers because we're scared it's going to crash and we're going to lose our work. Let's save our project. So I'll create a project. You can just hit the save button. You could go to project, save. There's the standard icon here of save. Whatever you prefer, just hit save. Did I just lose my screen? Oh, there we go. Okay, great. Yeah. And I'm going to create a little a folder here. I'm just call it UN population. Right? And that's going to be the name of my project. So now I've saved my project. If for some reason my computer were to crash, at least I know it's saved. I gave it a name that's kind of recognizable. So the first thing is you save something, standard, right? The second thing is you'll notice, particularly right under the words settings and plugins, there's a few icons that I think are kind of self-explanatory. The hand is not to raise your hand and ask a question, although you guys are more than welcome to raise your hand and ask questions. But the hand is to actually scoot your map around. Oh, I'm more interested in looking at Africa. I want that front and center, right? So if you click the hand, you'll notice your cursor, instead of being an arrow, is now a hand, which allows you to scooch things back and forth. So if you're ever a little disoriented and you wanted to get it back to what you want front and center, you could just use the hand icon. Yeah. Yeah. The second thing is you'll see a magnifying glass with a plus sign in it. And I think you guys may know what that is, but that's to zoom in. So again, you click on it, and now your cursor, instead of being a hand, is now a magnifying glass. And I could say, yeah, I want to zoom in on Europe, and now it's zooms in on Europe very quickly, right? Right next to it, of course, is the flip side of that, the magnifying glass going out. So I could go and click that, and all of a sudden it pans way out. And then one other button that you may find useful is all the way over past the help sign, and it's called identity. So you may not be the most geographically aware person in the world. Does not matter. Click the little icon of the eye. It turns it into a little eye button, which is like the standard information sign. And now I can click it here, and it says, the country I've just clicked on is Ukraine. Right? You may click on another country, and you can click around. Right? So we've learned several buttons, how to move our map around. I may say like, oh, Ukraine is kind of off to the side. I want to move it over a little bit. I'm going to get my hand back, put it front and center. Yeah. And you'll notice when I click on something to ask for information, it actually gives me information about Ukraine. The information it's giving me is the underlying data that's in the map. So the maps you get may have different data. It may be environmental pollution. It may be the location of refugees. It depends on what your underlying data is. This data has to do with population, and it includes things like how old the typical person is in the country, how fast the country's population is growing. It has things about life expectancy, how long might a typical person live, and also about infant death rates. It's data circa 2020, by the way, in case anyone is wondering. So this is official United Nations data for countries around the world. You get to see a little bit of the underlying data in there. You could also see it includes like how much area is covered in that shapefile, and the name of the country and its official ISO 2-letter abbreviation. Great. So we have this map. We can see that it is underlying data. Does anyone have any questions at this point? Scooching around, going in, going out. Okay. So at this point, I'm going to go back out. To my map. Get you guys to see the whole world. So valuable for a story right now? Not so much, right? It's all one color. I can't see a pattern in there. You know, what I'd want to see are patterns. And you guys kind of already know the data that's lying underneath here. So what's knowing that it has things like life expectancy and birth rates and total population, what might be something you all might wish to map to see better? Anybody? Life expectancy. Like which countries might people live in have a better chance of living longer versus others? Great question. Everyone understands it's a reporter question, right? Which is the other big reminder. Yes, we have computers, but what matters is our reporter questions. So great question. Which country might people live in longer? So what we're going to do is we're going to go deeper into the program, into the properties of the file. So what I'd like you to do is just go over, see where it says world population, and just double click it. You should get a pop-up box that says properties, and it gives you all kinds of choices. Most of these you don't need to know, but it does give you a lot of choices. But I'm going to show you the choice that for this purpose you do need to know, which is symbology. Not my word. And double click that. You should get something that looks like this. Might have different colors. Symbology. So it kind of tells you what's going on in our map right now. In the very first part at the top, it says single color, right? It's saying single symbol, one color. And that's why our map, my map, is all pinkish. Yours might be a different color. It's all one color. But if you click over to the down arrow, you will see that there are different ways that you could change the colors. And one of the most useful for us as journalists is graduated color. So let's choose that. And what graduated color is it's going to give us a ramp. So it'd be like saying essentially, if I wanted to map the poorest countries and the richest countries and show where countries fall in the continuum. In this case, the gentleman back there said life expectancy, that something he wanted to map. So you could picture like shortest to longest life expectancy. So we chose a graduated symbol. And now we have to choose the value. So let's go to click our down button. And you could see what it's giving us now. For those of us who sometimes work in spreadsheets, it's essentially giving us the column headers of our spreadsheet or database. Categories, exactly, right? And we tried to keep these as clear as we could with the and not make them too long. But you could see there's one there called life expectancy. So since that was the one that that you all had chosen, or the first question asked, let's just choose life expectancy. So you could see like, okay, it's going to do life expectancy. It's got a color ramp, but it's not really showing us yet what the legend may look like. We still have a couple more clicks to do. For this class, there's a few choices. There's this thing here called mode, which says essentially, how do I want to put things in buckets? You know, in this case, the countries with the least life expectancy over here. I'm going to put the countries with the most life expectancy, longest life expectancy over here. Countries in the middle here. Those buckets, QGIS calls a mode. So I chose equal count, which means roughly in every bucket there'll be about the same number of countries. And the number of buckets or classes I want are 5. So there'll be 5 buckets. Everyone will have roughly the same number of countries. Yes? Oh, okay, so let me come over to your, thank you for raising your hand and saying something. Yeah, great. So go, that's okay. So go here, choose the down arrow. Yeah, choose greens or reds. Yeah, that's fine. Yep, perfect. Now, yeah. Life expectancy. Hit classify. See what happens. It's putting it all into single symbols. You have categories. You don't have graduated colors. There you go. Perfect. Yeah, perfect. Great. Thank you for improving my non-existent French. Great. Yeah, so it's graduated. Yeah, so great. So we have these categories. So I said I want an equal number of countries in each bucket. I'm going to choose 5 buckets. And now I'm going to hit the magic button that should do the work for me. I'm going to hit the classify button. And then you could actually see something that is like a legend. Right? I hit classify. Who does not have that? Oh, okay. No, you're fine. You're fine. So, does this say, perfect, due to equal count? Yeah? 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 Great. Hit 5, yep, and then hit classify. Perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. And thank you for raising your hand. Great. So, we could see we have this range, some of which appears to have some missing data, but going, you see the buckets it's falling into. And now you could hit apply. So now it's going to, oh, do you have your hand up? Oh, you could choose whatever color you want. Yeah, coming over. Oh, yeah, I'd choose a single color of some sort. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But here's the ramp. Yeah, and then did you hit does that say graduated? I can't read that. It says graduated? Okay. Yeah, you want solid. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Okay, great. So once you've done all this, you could hit apply and you hit OK. So who does not have something like this on their screen? Everyone has something like this? So you guys have just created your first map. We only needed to learn about half a dozen buttons. You saved a project. You created a legend so you could have an idea what you've just mapped. We tweaked the symbology, and now you could see which countries have the greatest life expectancy versus the least. And what's great about mapping is now you can more clearly see a pattern. So, you're journalists. If you had to write a story and say which part of the world has the lowest life expectancy, what might be the lead of your story? Africa, right? Particularly sub-Saharan Africa, right? Has some of the worst life expectancy rates on our planet, right? And if you wanted to flip it around, to have like the place with the longest life expectancy, how some people have those like BuzzFeedy headlines, move here, you'll live the longest. You could probably write that story too, right? And have a map to accompany it. Any questions at this point? You guys are doing great. We go till about 5:30, and we're gonna keep getting more complex, both as this class goes on, and then tomorrow morning we're gonna revisit some of the stuff and then get even more complex, but not so complex that we can't do it in these sessions. So yeah. No, it doesn't change your underlying data. All it did, that's a great question. She was asking, like, by doing these buttons, did she change the underlying data? No, she did not. She just changed the way it appears on her map. It put everything in buckets. Great. Someone else had their hand up. Yes. Yeah. Has the 86.5. Yeah. You could. We could just go back and change the symbology and just said, I only want to see countries that are like 86.5, and then you would see it quickly. The other thing, too, is that because all of this stuff is in a spreadsheet, essentially, or a database, you could always kick out this data into a spreadsheet. So you could go to this map. You could go to project. Actually, I think you just double-click here. I right-click. Hold on one second. One thing I rarely do. Right-click, and then export, and then save features as, and I could choose a CSV. And then I could, easily figure it out. But again, I could also say, just give me all the countries that are 86 and above. You could do that too, right? But this also shows you, these people are living to their late 70s, so. And you can change your icon to an I button, and you could say, okay, I'm in Sweden now. How much longer am I going to live just by being here in Sweden? I got to go a little closer. Get my hand button, get my little eye icon. And I could see my life expectancy here in Sweden is 82. So just by traveling here, I think most of us may live longer. Anyway, so, but all kidding aside, you've learned several things, changing the symbology. You've learned about saving a project. You've learned about 3 or 4 different icons. And then once you've learned that, you've created your first map. So, like I said before, you want to save your work. In this case, I looked at growth rates. So, if I had to write a lead for my story, I would say Africa is largely the continent with the fastest growth rates on the planet, and the lowest growth rates are in parts of Europe and other parts of the world, right? You guys may have done something else. So does anyone else have an observation from your mapping right now? Yeah. Africa's the youngest. Yeah, youngest continent. Yeah, exactly, right? So you begin to see patterns. All really helpful. Great. So if you guys wanted to do this when you're back at home and you're talking to a government agency, a lot of government agencies have GIS departments or mapping departments. Get to know those people and say to them, oh, you have a map? Yeah, do you have any shape files? I'd like the shape files. By the way, mapping people at government agencies, when they know that you know the word shapefile, they all of a sudden know that you're up here, right? So you can actually start getting shape files from government agencies because they're like, she knows what to do with them, right? Yeah, okay. So we did we did a relatively simple map. It was one map, and we were using the data within that map to map out a pattern and begin to see like what we could write as journalists. Okay, great. So in the second half of this class, we're going to create a new project, brand new project. So you can save what you just did, and you can go to project close. You could just hit a brand new one. So just hit your icon. What's kind of nice is at this point, QGIS remembers that you like having a legend, on your left side. So it's beginning to remember some of your preferences. And now we're going to add a different layer. And the layer we're going to add is, so again, to add a layer or to add a shapefile, we go to Layer. We go to Add a Layer. We go to Add a Vector Layer. And we hit the little button that lets us go and rummage around our computer. And in this case, I want you to go to the data you downloaded from the New York City police shootings file. And there's a file called cutdown.shp. Just the one that says SHP, not XML. The one that's .shp. Which is a cut down of New York City. I made it small. I only gave you parts of New York City so that we were not putting in tons of data. It's just a couple boroughs. We're going to hit Add, and we're going to hit Close. You should have a map that looks like this. So what is this? This is Brooklyn. This is Manhattan. This is New York City, parts of it. For some New Yorkers, it's only these two parts, but, kind of snobs. Great. So, again, the same, we're going to do a little bit of repetition so we get it down. You have the little hand icon. I could move it around. Maybe I didn't like it, have it all the way over to the side. By the way, this is real live data for a story. It's a portion of the data for a story that I believe went on to go win an IRE award in the United States. So this is real data we're working with. Let's zoom in to part of Manhattan or part of Brooklyn, whichever you like. Can zoom in, magnifying glass to get in close. You could take the information button, and you can hit the I button, and you could see some of the data that is in this map of Manhattan and Brooklyn. And I think it's kind of explanatory, but so to go over it, in the United States, every county, with the way we divide up our country, and every neighborhood can get what we call a FIPS code. So state, county, combined FIPS code, tract number. So each neighborhood, a tract is just like a few blocks. So if we were to walk from here to the brew house to go watch the concert last night, that'd be roughly equal to what a tract is in the United States. It's like a little neighborhood. So we get these little ID numbers, and then it tells us some of the demographic information about this community. And in this case, it tells us the number of whites, the number of blacks, the total population, and the percent of that population that is black. Right? So we get some basic demographic information. Just so you get an idea of what's here. Now, everyone feel comfortable with that. Now we're going to do something that's really fun with mapping software, which is we're going to take a spreadsheet that's not tethered to any map whatsoever. It's not a shapefile. It's just the spreadsheet we created on our own as part of this reporting project. It's just a spreadsheet. How do you map just the spreadsheet when it doesn't know the information yet on how to do it? There's a few ways to do it. We're going to do one of those things right now. So we're going to go to layer and add a layer, but stop right there. You'll see that there are other choices. One of them is a raster layer. We use that a lot in environmental reporting. It tends to classify different parts of the earth, but we don't have a raster file here. We just have a spreadsheet. So that's going to be the delimited text layer. It's like the fourth choice on the top. So hit add delimited text layer. The file name that you should have is New York City shootings, Brooklyn, Manhattan. Now stop, don't go click too quickly here. Just go a little slowly. We've brought in the shootings of Brooklyn and Manhattan. It's a CSV file. Most of the choices we don't care about. This we care about. Geometry definition. There are choices here. And I need to make sure before you hit OK that we've done the choices. We want point coordinates. And when you hit that, you'll see that it recognizes that inside the spreadsheet is a latitude and a longitude field. So point coordinates, latitude, longitude. Does everyone have that? Make sure they're clicked. Once you've done that, then you can hit add. And I'll come back to you right now. 1 second. You get another menu that looks like this. Just ignore it. Hit OK. Hit close. Okay. So hold on. I want to show you one thing now. So what we have here is a spreadsheet as a map of where the shootings were in New York by police officers. So these were New York City police officers shooting innocent bystanders. And they shot innocent bystanders, and it happened all throughout New York. Now, if you wanted to quickly ask a reporting question, what might you wonder? How could you use it in my article? So what would be a question you would ask? The demographics of who's underneath, of who got shot, right? Of also the neighborhoods. Where are the shootings happening, right? That would be a real journalistic question. I just changed the coloring here. So, yeah. Okay. One very quickly. We're going to go back here. You go back to our demographic table, which was called New York City Cutdown. We'll go to graduated. We're going to choose a value, and we're going to choose the percent black. We're going to classify it, hit apply, hit OK. And if you were to look here, what now would be your lead, knowing that the darker colors show that the shootings are certain neighborhoods? What would be an observation you could write for your article, as someone so quickly pointed out? Where are these shootings happening? In white neighborhoods? Yeah. Yeah, I'll change the color. Yeah, I know. Change this one really quickly. I'll change this one to a really dark color. Yeah. So now when you look here and you look at this map, what do you guys see? What would you be writing now as your story? Yeah, the shootings of innocent bystanders, people just walking down the street, and the police just happen to be running with their guns out shooting. When police shoot, injure, or kill innocent bystanders, where's it happening in New York City? It's happening in black neighborhoods. It's not happening in white neighborhoods. And the mapping data allowed us to write that for that award-winning story. The person who did this has gone on to work for 60 Minutes in New York. She's now an Emmy Award-winning television producer, and she does kick-ass investigations like this. But this is some of the actual data she used for analysis to look at police shootings in New York. Okay, we're going to resume this tomorrow morning, I think is our next session. So we're going to continue for this. For those of you who had laptop troubles, I would just suggest go up to your room, download QGIS, download the training data before you come here tomorrow. And again, we'll be working offline, so it doesn't matter how bad the hotel internet is here. You'll all be good. And thank you so much.